Tansei, welcome to Métis Minute, your source for Métis news in Region 7. Welcome back to Métis Minute. I am your host, Samantha Loney. As you may have seen from previous Métis Minutes, we have been covering housing and development applications happening around Simcoe County and Region 7. During today's Métis Minute, we will be discussing the bylaw amendment application by developers in Innisfil for Webster Blvd. During the City Council meeting, representatives from these developers were able to give a presentation on what these developments entail. As always, citizens were able to come to City Council and also share their concerns with the developments that are being proposed for Webster Blvd. Today, we bring you both the presentation from the developers and the concerns brought forward by citizens who attended that City Council meeting.
This application concerns proposed amendments to the Town of Innisfil zoning bylaw for 1761 Webster Blvd. We will start with presentations from staff and the consultant on behalf of the applicant. We will have an opportunity for public consultation during which we will hear from members of the public, and then council may have a few questions or comments. All speakers will have 5 minutes to ask your questions or express your comments. Then staff or the consultant will respond where possible. Should anyone need to speak for a second time to identify an issue that has not been already raised or received for clarification, they may be given an additional 5 minutes. After all members of the public have provided comments, council will receive the information. Should any member of the public watching the live stream wish to comment, they can email clerk services, and these comments will be provided to council and town staff and taken into consideration before council makes a final decision. You may also be added to the circulation list as an interested party, and you will be updated on any future information regarding the item. The email will be listed on the PowerPoint during the meeting and is also available on tonight's agenda, which can be found on the town's website. We will now hear from the clerk, Patty Toma, on how public notice of this meeting has been provided.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Notice for this public meeting was provided to required agencies, and the notice was circulated to all landowners within 120 meters of the subject lands on May 20th, 2024, in accordance with the Planning Act. As well, corresponding signage was posted on the property on May 30th, 2024. Information and materials respecting the application were also posted on the town's Get Involved page.
Has any correspondence been received by clerk services concerning this item?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. 2 pieces of correspondence regarding this application has been received by the clerk's office and has been circulated to council. A submission from the Get Involved Innisfil page dated June 15, 2024, expressing concerns about the proposed development. Also, Anne and Ed Oten, dated June 19, 2024, expressing concerns about the proposed development. Also, your Deputy Mayor, the members of the public may provide comments or register their interest regarding this item during this meeting or up until the council makes a decision by contacting the clerk's office.
Thank you. We will now hear from Steve Montgomery, Supervisor of Development Planning, who will provide a high-level summary of the application.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fowler, members of council, staff, and the public. The purpose of this public meeting is to consider a proposed zoning bylaw amendment on lands known municipally as 1761 Webster Blvd in Alcona. Slide, please. Purpose of this application is to permit a proposed total of 91 condominium townhouse units consisting of 31 2- and 3-story conventional townhouse units, 26 3-story back-to-back townhouse units, and 34 3-story stacked townhouse units. The townhouse units are proposed to be accessed vehicularly by a private internal condominium road. The zoning bylaw amendment would rezone the subject lands from the existing RT2H zone to 3 residential townhouse exception zones representing each type of townhouse proposed, back-to-back, conventional, and stacked, specifically, RTXXH, RTYYH, and RTZZH to facilitate the proposed development. Next slide, please. The subject lands are approximately 1.54 hectares in area with approximately 168 meters of frontage on Webster Boulevard. To the north is industrial general zone lands containing a commercial well drilling operation and 7th line. To the east is medium density residential land, specifically townhouses. To the west is Webster Boulevard and vacant future development and residentially zoned lands. And to the south is townhouses, semi-detached dwellings, and the Lake Simcoe Public School. Next slide, please. So this is the proposed concept plan, which will be explained in more detail by the applicant. As you can see, it includes a private road, a small amenity space, visitor parking, proposed stacked townhouses with frontage on Webster Boulevard at the bottom of the plan. Back-to-back townhouses are proposed in the center by the applicant, and conventional townhouses at the top and right side of the plan, which are the east and south sides of the property. Next slide, please. So staff are reviewing this development in the context of applicable planning policies, which would include, of course, the provincial policy statement, growth plan, Lake Simcoe protection plan, County of Simcoe official plan, the Town of Innisfil official plan, and the existing town's zoning bylaw. And we'll have a final review of applicable policies in the recommendation report. Next slide, please. So agency comments thus far are for the County of Simcoe, stating that County of Simcoe Planning Department stating that the proposal aligns with the County of Simcoe official plan with respect to providing compact urban form, efficient land use, variety of housing types, and meeting the density targets. The county also has comments respecting waste collection. Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority states they have no objection and that their technical comments pertaining to stormwater management and water balance will be provided through the site plan review. Public comments received state concerns about the density proposed, traffic impacts on surrounding streets, parking constraints and lack of parking, lack of on-site green space, and a request for more information on the original rezoning from 2003, which is what the site is currently zoned RT2. Current zoning allows apartments up to 4 stories. That's the existing zoning, allows apartments up to 4 stories and townhouses at a density of 52 units per net hectare, which was the maximum density allowed by the official plan at the time, which was the 1993 official plan. This zoning is proposing 59 units per net hectare with different setbacks and standards reflecting the proposed detailed design. The current town official plan, which is the 2018 official plan, allows up to 60 units per net hectare on the subject lands, which this would conform to. So in summary, next slide, please. 91 townhouse units are proposed on this site, conventional back-to-back and stacked on full services 2 to 3 stories. Proposed development would result in an overall density of 59 units per hectare. 2 parking spaces per unit and 23 visitor parking spaces are proposed by the applicant, and a 275 meter squared private amenity area for shared use by the condominium residents. A private condo road is proposed to access the units as described and shown. As stated again, the subject lands are designated in the town's official plan, residential medium density, which currently allows up to 3-story townhouses and a density of up to 60 units per net hectare. Next slide. So in terms of next steps, staff will review and consider all the comments received and report back to council at a future council meeting recommending whether the proposed zoning should be approved. Notice would be provided respecting when this report is returning to council for consideration to all who requested notification or submitted written correspondence for this public meeting. That includes written correspondence on getinvolvedinnisfil.ca website, as well as all the emails and letters received. If the zoning was approved, also site plan control, draft plan of condominium exemption, and part lot control exemption processes are required to facilitate this development. A holding symbol is proposed for the residential zones, and this is required to confirm that water and wastewater allocation is provided by the town before development can proceed, and a development agreement is entered into with the town. Next slide, please. And Darren Ding is the planner in this file. His contact information is above for more information on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. We will now hear from Lauren Capilongo, Principal, Malone Given Parsons Limited, on behalf of the applicant, who will provide further planning context to this application.
So good evening, members of committee. My name is Lauren Capolongo. I'm a planner and principal with the firm Malone Given Parsons. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, who is Webster Blvd Developments, to present to you on this zoning bylaw application. Staff did a very good job of describing the site. I'll be very brief. It's located on the east side of Webster Drive, south of 7th Line, and north of Booth Avenue. Maybe I'll just wait for the presentation to catch up. Okay, perfect. If you can go to the second slide, that would be great. Wonderful. The site is 1.55 hectares in size and has about 170 meters of frontage on Webster Boulevard. Next slide. The subject lands, which is outlined in red here, is designated residential medium density in the town's official plan. As staff did speak to, the designation permits a range of built forms on the property, including townhouses back-to-back and stacked townhouses. It also establishes a maximum density of up to 60 units per net hectare and a maximum building height of 3 stories. Next slide. The subject lands are currently zoned a residential townhouse exemption, and it's subject to site-specific exceptions. As Mr. Montgomery spoke to, these site-specific exemptions were in place as a result of a zoning bylaw application that was approved by council in 2003. It obviously predates me and my involvement in this file, so we don't really have a lot of information on the context of the plan itself, except that we know that it was to permit a mix of townhouses and apartment buildings on this site up to 4 stories in height. What I wanted to note is the site-specific zoning does establish a density cap of 52 units per hectare in that site-specific zoning, which is less than the current density that's permitted by the town's official plan, which is 60 units per hectare. Next slide. So this is the proposed concept plan. The colors are a little bit muted, so I apologize, but it proposes a total of 91 condominium townhouses, which include 21 standard townhouse dwellings with the traditional backyards, and they're shown in sort of that, I guess, grayish purple color there. They have traditional backyards, as I mentioned, and they are going to be a mix of 2- and 3-story dwelling typologies, and they are backing on to the existing medium-density townhouse built form in the surrounding community. In the interior of the site, in that sort of like dark blue color that we see on the screen, are 26 back-to-back townhouse, which are 3 stories in height. And fronting onto Webster Boulevard, we have 34 stacked townhouse dwellings with rear lane access off of the Condo Road. Parking for all of the dwelling units complies with the town zoning bylaw. We're proposing 2 spaces per unit, 1 in the driveway, 1 in the garage. And then there's going to be an additional 0.25 spaces per dwelling unit for visitors. Those comply with the zoning bylaw, as I mentioned. Access to the development will be through a condominium road. It's 6 meters because it's access off of Webster Boulevard, and around it as well will be a 1.5 meter sidewalk connection. There's also a 275 square meter small little amenity area sort of at the north corner, shown in that dark green as well, which will be used for the residents of this development. I did want to stress again that the development does conform to the residential medium density designation in the town's official plan for the built form, the uses, as well as the density provisions. Next slide. So I know staff did raise a couple of comments with respect to residents expressing concern with respect to the lack of green space in the area and on the site. I wanted to highlight that the townhouses, as I mentioned, will have traditional backyards, so they will have a green space of their own. A lot of the back-to-back as well as the stacked townhouses will also have sort of an outdoor amenity space in the form of a balcony, which will serve those residents. There'll be that small amenity space on site, but the lands are actually well served and in walking distance, less than 300 meters to existing park space in the area, and within 800 meters walking distance to 2 additional parks in the broader area. Next slide. So to implement the proposed concept plan, we have submitted a zoning bylaw amendment to establish site-specific provisions to implement the proposed built form. The list of amendments that we required are listed on the screen and contained in the staff report, but they address lot area, yard provisions, lot coverage, landscape, open space. And again, these are amendments that we would need to the existing zoning that was in place to implement a concept plan that was approved by council in 2003. So I want to highlight, we're not seeking any amendments to garage provisions or parking space. All of those comply fully with the town's official plan. And as staff also mentioned that there's a current holding provision on the site that's relating to allocation for water and wastewater and the entering into a development agreement. We're continuing to maintain that holding provision to ensure that the lands are satisfactorily address those items. Next slide. So as part of the application, we have submitted a whole host of studies that are with the town for review and consideration, just to ensure that the proposed development is appropriate. A few of the studies that we did submit are listed on the screen. We submitted a noise report to ensure that there's no noise impacts from any of the adjacent uses, specifically the well drilling company to the north. We did a geotechnical and hydrological report to examine the soil stability and water balance and making sure that everything works, as well as a traffic report, which concludes that the proposed development will have minimal traffic impact on the existing road network, as well as the intersections of Booth Avenue and Webster Avenue. So for all those reasons, and given the fact that the plan does conform to the town's official plan, I believe that it represents an appropriate built form that is compatible with the existing community. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation, and I'm available to answer any question the council may have.
Thank you, Mrs. Capalongo. Sorry. We will now hear from members of the public who have questions regarding this item. I understand that no one is registered to speak virtually, so I will call on those in attendance here at Town Hall to come forward to the podium and state their name for the record. As a reminder, every person will have an initial 5 minutes and may return to the podium after everyone has had a first round. Does anybody wish to speak on this particular item? Beans, please come up and state your name for the record.
Thank you for having us here this evening. I'm speaking to you as a resident from Lambstone Street. I currently am providing a service for the town of Innisfil, Booth, and Lambstone Street, as my property is actually funneling all the water. Sorry,
if we could, sorry to interrupt, could we get your name, please,
yes,
for the record?
Elise Story, thank you. I was on a mission. Okay, Elise, E-L-I-S-E, S-T-O-R-Y. So my house currently is the corner unit, the beautiful corner unit on Lambstone Street. All the storm water runs across the back of my property, down the side of my property, from Lambstone and from the top of Booth down. We are very, very concerned. I would suggest that the functional report is not very functional. They came into my property, they cleared away some brush and stuck a yellow tag in my yard, and that was that. Didn't want to hear any of our concerns. I'm very concerned about the big pile of snow that they plan on piling up behind my fence. Once that melts, which will be adding more water for us to siphon away, along with the salt that's all in there, is going to ruin our property. So that's for us personally. I am concerned that when we purchased more than 20 years ago, what we were told was going to be behind us is now turned from a that is true, a 4-level apartment building for seniors with green space, and now it's turning into a 91-unit townhouse squished in my backyard. So it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. The other concern is, obviously, what has been mentioned is the parking. The parking that is considered to be within reason. All you have to do is drive on Booth and Lambstone during the 6 months where you are allowed to park, and there's already not enough spaces. So I'm not really sure where all these extra people are going to park. But it's probably going to be on our streets on both sides, really, really increasing the safety issues of the many families that have moved in with young children. So that is another concern. We've had our basement flooded twice. Flooded once, had to be repaired, thousands and thousands of dollars, and 3 weeks later, flooded again, and had to be done a second time. Since then, we have spent lots and lots of money putting in different type of sump pump and a backup for a backup, because we're not just siphoning our own water, we're siphoning the water. You can watch it. Before there was fences along along that Limestone Street, you could see the trail of water going from one side of Limestone across all the backyards and down the side. And we've built what is a very interesting, and thanks to my father for helping us do this, to be able to handle all that water. This extra water, this extra snow, the melting just really, really concerns us. The other thing is just more about, right now, and I know that development is going to happen, but there are so many birds, there are so many animals. We just really have a really beautiful, peaceful, piece of property back there, and we're going to have to be giving that up. And we recognize that, but I did want to note it. So I think that's all I wanted to address. But yeah, the water and the parking is probably the biggest concerns that we have. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Story. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? By all means. Please come up and state your name for the record.
Sure. Hi. My name is Debbie Miller, and I've been a resident of Innisfil for about 25 years. And I live on St. John's Road in 7th Line, so close to Webster. Actually, my first subdivision I moved into was at Webster and Emerald Court. Development is great. It's great for Innisfil. I understand that. And I don't want to deny anybody the opportunity to get tax dollars and to build up Innisfil. But I live on St. John's Road, and every day I come outside, and all I see is dead animals on my street. And it's heartbreaking because she's talking about green spaces. Yes, green spaces are great because the humans are going to have another backyard, and they can look at the trees and they can have their backyard. But when we think of our environment, can we kindly think about the animals sometimes? Because their habitat is important, and they are our wildlife. And they're necessary, and they create the balance in our ecosystem. So sometimes when we're building those things, sometimes think about the wildlife and stop just thinking about humans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. I believe we have another young lady coming up to the podium. That's you. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you. It's Elizabeth Dykstra. It's D-Y-K-S-T-R-A. Apologize for the voice. It's allergy season all year round, I think. So I live on Limestone. I have a lovely backyard. I have a lot of lovely weeds in my backyard from the green space. Sections A, B, and C are 21 units that are backing onto Limestone Street. Oh, my apologies. First of all, Deputy Mayor, Council, neighbors, community. My apologies. So the same space on Limestone holds 16 units. That's more than like a 20% increase. And I know that one of them is a corner unit, and I completely agree with the lady who has the water problem, because I get to pay extra insurance because it's a known flood zone on our street. I was led to believe that there was at one time a proposed to be space for senior living, and I'm glad to hear that that wasn't just a story that was told to entice me to buy this place. But it appears that none of these houses are senior accessible, especially the 3-story units. No senior wants to climb stairs. I just had knee surgery. I don't want to climb anything, let alone the only stairs in my house. So that would appear that these places would appeal to families. And I mean, I love kids, I love families, I love everything. But unfortunately, Innisfil is still a commuter town, which also means that, even though they have 2 parking spots, you're going to need 2 vehicles if both parties work out of town or so forth, and have to commute from anywhere pretty much. I commute to Newmarket every day. I know these things. Parking is 2 per unit. One is in the garage, one is a parking space. Okay, the reality is this is Innisfil. If you have a single car garage, you don't get to park in it because, you've got your winter tires, you've got the kids' bikes, you got any recreational toys and vehicles and everything else. This is going to be a condo corporation, so they don't have to put a snowplow in there, but they're going to probably have to put those great big bins in their garage or have them sit somewhere else. That means these are one-person parking spots. The parking requirement for the new plan is the same as the old plan. That's great. The reality is, there's 11 new accessible parking spots, or there's 6 more accessible parking spots, but there's not really additional parking for these new houses. Snow removal sections, I don't know, have the architects of this plan ever even been to Innisfil in the winter? I know I was in for a big shock the first year that I moved here, and I don't have a snowblower, but I think I had mountains about this high on the very small piece of grass that was in between my neighbors. And I get one of those nice drifty drifts so that I get the big pile of snow too. So they're going to put all of this snow in these very small areas, which is great. I don't know what they're going to do with the snow for the second snowfall and the third snowfall and the third, and continuing on. So that may be a problem. And then also these piles, if they are left, they are going to attract small children who are going to dig and they're going to climb. And, I know I had a small child once. He dug, he climbed. It was a safety issue. On regular streets during the summer, people park their additional vehicle on one or both sides of the street, wherever permissible, and wherever you can sort of dodge. So on occasion, I'm driving, the little rat's race trying to get to my own place, and they speed. So if there's additional parking and there's additional speed and additional cars, it becomes a safety issue for everybody. I like to take my cane that I've been using lately and just, do the old man Simpson thing and just sort of say, hey, slow down. And amazingly, they actually slow down for that. I can't use that anymore. So one entrance on Webster Blvd, close to a busy intersection with those who bring their children to school and to go to work. This is without any development on the other side. That is a huge issue. It is busy. There are kids, there are people, there are walking. I don't know when they did the traffic analysis, but it sure wasn't, at 8:30, 9 o'clock on a, school day. The placement of the units do not allow any airflow or breezeways from the front to the back. They are staggered. So, behind my place is a very small, opening between the units. There are 3 rows in fairly close proximity to each other and very little green space for trees or other landscaping, which are beneficial, especially in weather such as the weather that we've had this week. The 2 sections of the 3 stories are like the worst culprits. It becomes a hot box, actually, of housing in a confined space, which will affect the residential areas surrounding. The proposed trees, and I saw that there are proposed trees, about 10 to 12 feet. It's going to take how many years before they actually provide any benefit to anybody with concerns with regards to the environment?
Mrs. Dykstra, we've reached the 5 minutes approximately. If you could wrap up, please, we appreciate it. If when we're done with everybody, you have more to add, you're more than welcome to come back up.
Okay, I'm going to just make little points. The town's official plan, there were 4 strategies, 4 principles. One was activities and use. There's no space for activities. Where are the kids going to bike? Where are they going to park? They're going to play. They're going to play in the streets. Comfort and image describes the characteristics of being synonymous with living in Innisfil. It's just in safety and things like that. Sociability. I like neighbors, but I also like neighbors a little bit further away than right, up my nose. Anything else that I haven't said now, I will send to the town, and I will give somebody else an opportunity to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, if anybody else wishes to speak on this matter, you're more than welcome to come up. Okay, so we have someone else. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Neringa, Neringa. I live on Booth Avenue, so our house is going to be connected, backyard is going to be connected. My biggest issue is the school. We have like 3 kids, and I can see that we already have a Lake Simcoe Public School, has already 9 portables. 9. Addition, it's built, they're building addition, like, but I don't know when it's gonna be finished, and we have only one high school, and another one in Barrie, the Catholic one. We don't have enough space for more people here. Like 7 Line and Webster intersection, when it's at traffic hours, is terrible. It's so many subdivisions are building around. We don't have enough playgrounds. Near the Lake Simcoe playground, they have only 3 swings, and it's packed by kids. It's not enough space for the kids to play. And yeah, about the water too. Our backyard is really filled with water. It's after the rain, you can see how the water is everywhere. In early spring, my kids cannot even go in the backyard because it's really, really wet and muddy. So I think that's it from me. Thank you. Bye.
Narni, all right, thank you very much. Any more comments? Anyone wish to step up? By all means. Please come up and state your name for the record.
Hi. Hello. Oh. Hopefully it's not too loud. My name is Samantha Morais, M-O-R-A-I-S. I also live on Limestone, and I just want to share a few points on why I believe the town should reconsider or reject the proposed bylaw amendment. So I want to begin by saying that I'm very aware that Canadians are facing a very serious housing crisis related to a lack of affordable housing. And obviously, increasing housing density is supposed to fix those problems, but I don't think that this will do that. So I think the proposed changes will, as mentioned by other neighbors, will include narrow roads and only one entry and one exit road. I think this will increase the parking issues, which have already been highlighted, as well as pose potential safety issues during emergency situations, as there's only one very narrow 6-meter entry, which is used for condos. And it's going to be used for 91 units that are going to house 4 people times 91 plus 2 times 91 cars. You can do the math on that one. I also think that it will ruin the aesthetic of our neighborhood, which is mostly characterized by bungalows or 2-story homes, including, I believe, the homes that are planned for the west of Webster on the other side of the road. The plan also raises other concerns, so the impact on our current quality of life, a disruption to the balance of the neighborhood, and a decrease in our property values due to the manner of the high density of the development. I think others have already made comments on the lack of green spaces, which we know are associated with physical and mental health outcomes. But there are other issues here related to amenities and services that the town hasn't been able to provide to the residents that are already living here. This includes primary healthcare services, access to more grocery stores, or even high-speed internet. A lot of people work from home, and we don't have very reliable high-speed internet in town, as well as public transit. Everyone needs a car. I also want to comment just on a few of the documents related to the amendment, and I think someone else has already mentioned this. So I read through the traffic analyses, and it was done on a weekday during school days from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. But the high school on Webster, which I know is on the other side of the 7th line, is open from 7:30 to 3:30. So the traffic analyses didn't really consider these starting and end times. And then the elementary school on Webster, which is the Lake Simcoe Public School, is actually open from 9:15 to, I believe, 3:35. So really the busiest time and when kids are walking and crossing the street and going to school is between 9 and 9:15 a.m. And there's also a train that goes by around 9:14, so there's additional bottleneck traffic around the area. So I don't think those critical time periods, and specifically pedestrians, including children, were considered. I think the building of the 3-story townhouses, being so close to the road, as well as the other houses that will eventually be built around Webster, will create blind spots, especially for children who may be crossing the road to get to schools. And then another point is just the stormwater management report, which just clearly shows that all the water is going to go towards the houses that have already spoken previously. Again, I just want to highlight that I understand we need more houses, but I think that some of the developments are looking at just very specific pockets of Innisfil when they should be looking at the bigger picture. We should think about creating more housing, but it doesn't mean that it all has to be high density, especially in Innisfil where we have so much available land, even though we should also be protecting our wildlife. So that's all I had. Thank you so much for considering.
Thank you very much. Oh, please come forward and state your name. Oh, apologies. I thought you were taking the mic. Are there any more comments or questions? By all means, please come forward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Melka Para. I live in 1784 Limestone Street. I want to share a little bit of my experience to live in a townhouse, especially in Limestone. So when I moved in like more than 10 years ago, it's a different story. Now we have bigger families. Everybody has a car. One side, we have one garage inside the house and 2 parking spots in one, and the other one garage and 1 parking spot outside the house. It's not working. If you visit Limestone, you will see 3 cars, 4 cars per unit. So if this project goes as planned, I think it will be a big mistake. First of all, the garage doesn't function as a garage, it's a storage. We have lawnmowers, we have snow blowers, camping staff, bikes, because the plan, I checked the plan, the townhouses, most of them, they have 3 bedrooms. They're expecting big families. And I don't know where they are going to put everything. So at the end, they're going to have only 1 parking spot because the other one will be storage. Where they are going to park the 2nd car, the 3rd car, and the 4th car. And also, if you check the plan, they are going to move the snow at some areas. They are going to have a huge pile, and the visitor parking area will disappear because everything will be snow. This is what will happen. It's not easy to live in a townhouse, especially the very small ones they are planning to do. So my suggestion, if you can build less townhouses, bigger area, and everybody got the new big garbage bins from the store, from the town. Well, I personally cannot fit my bins inside the garage. Those are outside. It looks horrible. I cannot put inside. I have my lawnmower, snow thrower, everything is there. I cannot fit. So where they are going to put the bins from the town? Are you checking how big the garage are going to be? Is there a specific measurement that are considering to put winter tires, garbage bin, camping staff, and all those kind of things? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a question that they can answer me, and that's only from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Any more? Anybody else wish to speak? Oh, hello again.
Yeah, well, this is the real reason why I came. The other one was a bonus.
Well, you're more than welcome. You're welcome to come up and you got the ear of all the council. So
it's Angela Hoppa again. I'm a Limestone resident for over 20 years. this subdivision, I understand, yes, we need to build more housing in Innisfil. The whole province is suffering. I understand that. But this approval was done over 20 years ago. I don't know, even half of the houses around the neighborhood were even here. So any of the information you've gathered is out of date. A lot of the traffic concerns, we now have traffic coming all the way from the 6th line all the way across us, not to mention the houses that they're proposing to build are literally 5 feet from the road. You're not going to be able to see traffic coming either way. And as far as calling it a senior's home, I'd like to see the seniors climbing those stairs. Because, yeah, no, the seniors aren't climbing 4-story townhomes. They don't fit in the neighborhood. There's no 4-story townhomes in Innisfil. If you want 4-story townhomes, go back to Toronto, because that's not what Innisfil is. People buy out here for the land, you know, to get away from the busy city life. We come out here to relax. We don't come out here to be jam-packed and crammed in. That's not what Innisfil is, and I'm not sure if that's where our town wants to be going. You know, the safety concerns for that street, there's only one in and out. I'd like to see, you know, some emergency vehicles come in and out of that. How are you going to get more than one fire truck, police, ambulance? They're not going to be able. The safety concern, you're not going to get people out. God forbid there's a tragedy. We know Innisfil is changing. We've all had gun reports. We've had shootings. What happens if there's a shooting on that street, God forbid? Where are those people going? You got one in and out. One in and out, they're trapped. We don't know where people's mindsets are going these days. Now you've just trapped 91 residents in there. It's not a safety. It's not safe for anybody in there. It needs to be reconsidered. The elevation is higher. I agree with all the points, my fellow landowners. That elevation slopes all the way to those people. They're already flooding. Now you're going to put a concrete jungle back there? I don't know. All that water is just going to run off towards them. You call green space? You obviously never been here, like my resident said, in the wintertime. You're going to plow snow in an accessible area. Those parking spots will all be filled with snow. So there will be no excess parking. You have one parking spot for 91 houses. No one's going to afford $700,000 house or up on one income with one car. You're going to have 2 vehicles. You're going to be using those extra spaces. Those extra spaces are going to be filled with snow in the wintertime. There's going to be nowhere for them to go. Emergency vehicles won't be able to access houses if need be. And we're already strapped when it comes to the sewers, when it comes to try water your grass, try have a shower in the evenings in the neighborhood once everyone gets home from work. Now you're going to add all that extra stress. The sewers can't handle it when it rains. Now we're going to have all of that. The internet, God forbid you try to get on the internet once everyone's home from work. We just don't have the infrastructure in place to add that many more homes in the area. Thank you.
Once again, I ask if anyone wishes to speak on this matter. Microphone is open. All right. Yes, by all means. Please approach the microphone and state your name for the record, sir.
Thank you, everyone. My name's Josh Mead, Joshmead. I live at 1176 Booth Avenue. I'm really here just to support what everyone's saying. I've lived here 17 years as of June. Everything everyone has said, the flooding is an issue here. Okay, I live right in the corner of the proposed area, the southeast corner. Okay, so I've seen that flooding that Elise has mentioned coming right down through my backyard. There is a drainage well right there somewhere, buried under all kinds of grass and rocks and whatnot. It doesn't work very well in your property. Is it there? Okay. It doesn't work very well. It never has. You know, I've had my basement back up just the same as you have. You know, your sump pumps, if you walk down that street in the middle of a dry summer, there's always a sump pump running somewhere in that neighborhood. Always. There's always water running across the sidewalk. You know, so the drainage is going to be a big issue. These tiny little areas that they proposed for all that snow. Someone else had mentioned, come here in the winter and look at our snowbanks, okay? I have one of the biggest lawns on Booth Avenue. I have an end-unit townhome, and I've got a lot of grass. My snow is still that deep on my lawn that's only 4 feet wide. At the end of my driveway, it's up into my maple tree over my head. And you look at the plan layout for this little high-density community, they don't have anywhere to put their snow. So they're going to have snow removal company come in and shovel everyone's driveway every day and push it off? No. People are going to trample down their snow, they're going to have slip hazards and whatever, and they're going to push their snow out into the road, and then maybe by noon or 4 o'clock the next day after a snowstorm, they'll finally come and push it away, but they're going to push it in these huge piles that, as everyone said, are going to be 18 feet high or higher in our backyards. And they're going to be causing all kinds of flood and salt runoff and whatnot. It's going to be killing our plants in our backyards. And, here we all live in a nice little piece of paradise. For 17 years, I've had nothing in my backyard but a field. I used to have deer run through my backyard when I moved in. You don't see that anymore, okay? And now we feel like we're going to live down in downtown Markham or Toronto, and it's just going to be a concrete jungle. I think it's just crazy. The density is way too high for what you guys are proposing. And hopefully that's not going to happen. Again, with the garbage and the storage of those monster bins, I'm just like the last resident that said, I have these bins sitting in front of my garage door because I can't put them in my garage. Once upon a time when my wife and I were, double income, no kids, we were, using that garage. But now that we've got bikes and toys and camping gear and all that stuff, that garage is full. I park in my driveway. I had to cut a new parking spot on my lawn that we've filled in with gravel, and we'd like to interlock eventually, but time hasn't permit yet. But here we are trying to make space. Now we're going to jam in all these people, and no one's going to have parking space. And as everyone said, you're going to have a one car, you're going to have a storage bin, and then what? I just think it's crazy. And if I could just finish with one question, is there any sort of proposed timeline on this at this point? If everything was approved and everything just flew through, are we looking at 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? How far away is this? Does anyone have any idea? Because I want out before my property value goes to crap.
Well, sir, this has been a planning session. It's just being brought forth for information and public input. There's nothing been passed as of yet.
No.
So it will be coming up. If you sign up to the website, you'll receive the emails as they come in with what comes in with every agenda every week when we come in.
Okay, excellent.
No trouble.
All right, thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Once again, I ask, okay, we have another person. Beautiful. Please come to the microphone and state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Casper, and I live at 1207 Booth Avenue, which is on the south side, right on the corner of Booth and Webster. Our concern, I agree with everybody that what they've said so far about everything. My concern is the density. Because not only do we have 91 units going in there, there's another 42 units going in off of the 7th line west of Quarry. So there is going to be a lot more density, and as far as the schooling, it's not going to be able to look after that number. My other question is, do we need this amount of density, and does it include affordable housing? I believe affordable housing is more important than having more density. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If anybody has anything else they wish to add, we've covered quite a number of points already, which have been repeated numerous times, which is a good sign, means everyone's on the same page. If not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the clerk if any emails have been received during this meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No emails have been received regarding this item.
Thank you. We will now go to council for questions and comments, and then we will go to the recommendation to receive comments provided this evening. Does anybody on council have anything they wish to ask? Okay, that would be Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you all for coming tonight. There's a lot of good points taken. Seniors accessible housing is very important. My biggest concern was to the density, but the fire chief is not here to answer my question, so I'm going to put it in for the paper. There is only one entrance and exit into this subdivision. That being said, like one of the people said, the public said today, should there be an emergency, how are they going to get out? There is no emergency exits for anybody. So could we have the developer and the fire chief please look into that? Because as they said, should there be an emergency, a lot of cars are leaving at one time. And when they're parking on the street, because there's only room for one car and the lack of parking, it's going to be a difficult area for them to get out. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Saunders. Councillor Waters?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a couple of questions. One, and they have to deal with many questions have been raised tonight around green space and also stormwater. Drainage seems to be an issue on this site. So normally when we, and also the third item is parkland. So starting with parkland, I just want to ask, just for, that everyone understands, normally when we receive a plan of subdivision, there are a certain amount of parkland that they have to provide. Does the amenity space that they provided meet that requirement?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Fowler, they need to provide cash in lieu for public parkland in this case, because that amenity space is not public parkland. It's a private common element. So
I guess what they're hoping is that we'll accept cash for parkland elsewhere in that community. So right now there'd be no parkland that's seen, and that amenity space is not parkland.
That's correct. The amenity space is not public parkland.
Okay. All right, then. My second question is attached to that is just green space. Is more of a comment than anything else. Normally, when we advocate for higher density, like we have in the orbit, the town has done an excellent job in providing green space for that design. And it seems to me that builders have taken upon themselves, that since we're in a rush to build, that they seem they can cram as many places in to maximize profits, but not maximize community. And it seems that we need to take a closer look at how do we maximize benefit for community when we get these higher densities. Like, I'm all for higher densities. I've stated that many times, but it has to be accompanied by proper green space so it gives people a sense of community. And there have been thousands of reports written on the importance of green space when you have high density communities. So I think that's important. And when these types of subdivisions come forward, we need to keep that in mind. My last item is the last subdivision in this general area, I believe, had a stormwater management pond in it, but I don't see one here. And it seems that drainage is an issue across Innisfil. We all know that. So why is there no stormwater management pond on this site? The bylaws state that homeowners are responsible for the water that comes off their property. Why wouldn't this development?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Fowler, there is an underground tank that is proposed, but it's under the common amenity area.
So that's something that can be topped. I've never heard that in any of our plans that we've received before. It seems they could accomplish two things. They get additional green space if they had an open area stormwater management area that is treed. So they would accomplish two things at once. So generally, it seems it is overly dense, lack of green space, lack of parkland, and especially with, I'm hearing the issues around stormwater management. People around them should not be responsible for water that drains off their property. And specifically, snow accumulation in the wintertime is a serious issue. It's something we need to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Councillor Zanella.
Thank you. I also have a lot of concerns about the flooding and drainage issues, so I think that's something that we really need to take a look at before we can really go any further. Also, when we had the list of all the things that were, people that were consulted, I didn't see the school board's input on that, on the list. Have the school boards, both school boards, been consulted and had any input?
The school boards were circulated. They're all circulated. They're part of our standard circulation list for rezonings. We haven't received any correspondence, but we will certainly follow up with
We
the
haven't
boards.
seen anything back from either one of them?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. And I think for now, that's it. I do have other questions, but they'll be at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zanella. Is there any more questions? Okay, Councillor Drudge.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I couldn't agree more with Councillor Waters' questions. They definitely need to be answered. But I had a question around the traffic study. Does that traffic study include pedestrian traffic? So I'm aware that it was done between a certain time of day, and actually, it's a good question I heard from the audience. When was that traffic study done? And my other question is, when that traffic study was done, was there pedestrian traffic also calculated?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I believe the traffic study was completed last year. I don't have the date top of mind. I do apologize for that. I don't think it looked at pedestrian study, it just looked at vehicular traffic, but it's something that we could follow up with staff and have a conversation on.
All right, thank you. Yeah, because anybody that lives in that area knows that probably 90% of that area is walking.
Okay, Councillor Constantine.
So my concern is when the proposal was put first, they were asking for 70 units, and now they want 91. So I want to know, why is the increase?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. So the original density that was proposed for the site, 52 units per net hectare versus the 59 units per hectare that we're talking about today, that was done by a different developer at that time. That was done back in 2003. I think the file and the information that both the city staff have and my current applicant is very slim. We don't really understand exactly the proposed built form, how we derived that 52 unit per hectare versus the 59 that were being proposed today. So unfortunately, I don't have too much information to share with you on the historical file here and how the 52 was derived back then.
Because to my understanding, the resident, they wouldn't, they doesn't mind the 70 unit because they think that that would give them more green space. But, they added 91. That's what they are concerned about.
Well, I think we're talking, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about units per hectare. I think you're talking about units. I don't have the specifics of the plan that was in place in 2003 to be able to answer your question efficiently. All I can say is when we're talking about it on a net unit per hectare basis, the difference is very marginal. I think the average individual wouldn't be able to discern a difference between 52 units per hectare versus 59 units per hectare.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, I have a few comments myself while I have a moment. My son went to Lake Simcoe Public School when it was being constructed, so I've seen the growth in the area over the past 10 years. And I've seen how the traffic has increased, and I think that this is going to be a major issue. I'm a commuter myself. With many members of the community, like 80% of us commute down to Toronto or to Barrie or other locations. So when we leave en masse. And there's a lot of times where when you have children and people in a rush in the morning to go, you're going to create problems. It's going to create havoc. And what we have with that is a situation, the density is too much with too many people trying to get out of one location, as has been stated, with the one entrance. That's going to create a bottleneck, and it's going to be nothing but issues that arise from that. Add in the wintertime, the snow. I've been a resident for almost 3 decades now of Innisfil, and I've been here when the snowbanks have been 8 feet tall, and my frontage is large enough that it can manage it decently. I can only imagine what the poor people in those houses would have in that situation. And lastly, you mentioned green spaces in your map with your radial view. One park is within walking distance, but you had to walk down the road and around the school. Annette is not just down the road and across. You have to literally weave your way through. And then Webster Park, on top of that, you have to go through a major intersection and then up a major thoroughfare to get to Webster Park. So the lack of green space that's accessible for children, I don't see that. I see that as a major issue in the future with the people coming up. This needs to be looked at. I'm sorry, this is my personal opinion. This needs to be looked at to make it more accessible with the community, to make it more, to fit in better so that there's less chance of children being injured. The situations with the entrances need to be addressed where, like has been brought up numerous times. It seems like a very ideal situation you're presenting, but what we need is something that's a little more realistic. Thank you.
We would like to make note that that city council meeting was not to approve or deny the proposed development. It was simply to hear from the developers and the citizens who live in the area about how this development might affect them. As we mentioned, the proposed development of these 91 townhouse-style condominiums have not been approved or denied by City Council yet. So if you're a citizen who lives in Innisfil, or more specifically, the area surrounding Webster Boulevard, and would like to have your voice heard, you are more than welcome to reach out to Innisfil City Council to express your opinion on these developments. Merci for watching, and we'll see you down the river.